Awesome. Sit right next to you here.
All right.
This is Jack Hart with ILSportsWire, Taylorville Daily News, and WTIN. We're going to have a special guest here, Coach Brian James. Coach, thanks for joining me on this interview.
Jack, it's a pleasure is all mine. Big fan of Taylorville, Illinois, and Central Illinois, and still have a ton of friends, as you could hope to imagine. That I grew up at a great time where I enjoyed so much my childhood and got a lot of great memories.
Of course, Coach. Let's start out. You're at Northwestern now. I've been there since 2013 coaching. Talk about your experiences coaching a Big Ten team, being here for so long, working under Coach Collins to start out.
It's been full circle moment for me with Chris Collins, because I coached Chris in high school back when for 3 years, sophomore through senior year at Glenbrook North High School. And, it's a very famous basketball family, Doug Collins and Chris Collins. Doug, a famous player at Illinois State, and then later into pros and announcing. So Chris was a great high school basketball player, and was McDonald's All-American, Mr. Basketball of Illinois, led the state in scoring for 2 years in a row, his junior and senior year, averaged right at 30 points a game his senior year. Elected to go to Duke University for his college career. Yeah. And I used to yell at him, now he yells at me.
Crazy full circle.
But I've been there for 13 years, enjoyed it, because I coached 8 or 9 years in high school in Illinois, at the northern part of Illinois, suburbs. And so, going back home to Chicago was very good for me. My family was in that area. So it's a hard job, as everybody knows in the Big Ten. Northwestern, we're the underdog in almost every game we play. And they had never been to the tournament before in the entire school's history, 78 years.
Wow.
And we've been 3 times. So, Chris has done just an amazing job, and I've been blessed to be part of the journey with him.
That's awesome to hear. So you started out there in high school coaching. Talk about how you started, once again, Taylorville, Illinois, small town Illinois, and how Taylorville's had such an impact on you and helped you get here to coaching NBA and college now for Northwestern.
Well, it all started when I believe I was the youngest head coach in the state of Illinois at age 21. In fact, 20 when I took the job at Wilmington, Illinois, and right out of Illinois State University. And I only stayed there 1 year because I went to a wedding in Taylorville during that summer after my first year of coaching, and I get grabbed on the shoulder by Verlin Bundy, who was then our superintendent, and also Dale McNeely, who was on the school board, and they go, "We want to talk to you during this wedding reception." So, they had a job opening. Carl Blyce was going to be the new head coach, who was my freshman basketball coach. They wanted to know if I wanted to come back to my hometown and coach, and I took a $2,000 pay cut to come back, but it was about the best 7 years of my life, because I got to come back, rejoin a lot of friends that I had, those friendships, and then my grandparents still lived in town. My mom lived in Pleasant Plains at that time, so I got to see her quite a bit. So it was a great time for me, those 7 years back in Taylorville.
No, that's awesome, and it's cool to have an impact and connection to a small town like Taylorville for many of our viewers are at. Talk about how going from high school in Taylorville, you go up there and coach in the suburbs, and then going to the NBA, how that journey really went together and how you end up coaching, as we talked before, Michael Jordan, one of the best to play.
Well, it all started when I was about 14, and Don Williams was our head coach in Taylorville, and I just idolized all my coaches. And all I wanted to do was be around sports. And I quickly found out that if I wasn't going to be good enough to play at a high level, what was the next best thing? And because I looked up to my coaches my entire childhood, I said, I think I want to coach. Little did I know that I thought I was just going to be a high school coach my whole career, and I would have been fine with that. But so number one, those coaches at Taylorville really helped mold me and shape me into wanting to be in this profession. And then after I graduated from college, or I was in college, Doug Collins, who was a great player at Illinois State, would come back and work out during the summers. And at that time, I was a member of the Illinois State University baseball team and also got to help like as a graduate assistant with the basketball team. And Doug and I hung out for 2 summers in a row. I rebounded for him and got to know him a little bit. And years later, after he retired as a player and was coach of the Bulls, you know, again, a job opened up at Glenbrook North High School, and I was selected as their next coach. I got to coach Chris. We had great success. And then Doug and I became almost like best friends, like brothers. And what happened was he was fired from the Bulls. I coached 3 more years at Glenbrook, 6 years total, 3 with Chris and 3 after Chris when he was at Duke. And, you know, we had some great teams, made it to the state tournament here in Champaign twice. Never got a medal, but, you know, we got beat in the Elite 8 game 2 times in a row. That's when they played the Elite 8 in Champaign. Yeah. And, you know, Doug, after he got fired from the Bulls, he called, and we ran his basketball camps together in the summertime, the Bulls camps, and he goes, you know what, if I'm ever going to be crazy enough to do this again, you're coming with me full time. Because he knew I would work hard, I'd be loyal to him, and, you know, it was just that he knew that I would, you know, really try to make our team better and do whatever was asked. So little did I realize that 6 years later, after he told me that, he called me over to his house one night on a school night at 10 o'clock, and said, you need to go home and talk to your family, because in 3 days I'm going to be the new president and head basketball coach of the Detroit Pistons. So I'm coaching high school kids one season, and I'm coaching Grant Hill at the height of his career, and Joe Dumars, Hall of Famer, the next season. So that led from 3 years in Detroit, playoff teams twice. Going to Toronto, we drafted a player by the name of Vince Carter. Yep. Already inherited Tracy McGrady and traded for Charles Oakley. Had some great teams there. Coached Steph Curry's dad, Del Curry. And great time in Toronto for 3 years. And then Doug called me up on the phone and said, you better pack your bags because you're coming with me. I'm going to be the new coach of the Washington Wizards, and there's a guy named Michael Jordan going to come back and play for us. So awesome. So how can you turn that down, to have a chance to coach the greatest player in the world that's ever lived? And did that for only 2 years, because then Michael retired as a player. And that led me into broadcasting for a couple of years, doing what you do. And then I coached 2 other teams after that, the Milwaukee Bucks and the Philadelphia 76ers. So it's been a great journey for me, 49 years in total.
Yeah, that's amazing. You know, the amount of people you've met, amount of players you've been around, just crazy to be around this amazing industry of basketball.
Well, you know, we were talking about Michael Jordan, and I get asked a lot about how was he. First of all, he really respected his coaches. I think he learned that from Dean Smith when he was at North Carolina. He always looked up to coaches, never really was defiant to anybody. And, you know, he was the boss, too, because not only are you coaching a player, but he was also, you know, the president of our team with the Wizards. So, you know, sometimes you make suggestions, and most of the time he agrees with those suggestions. You know, he wanted to know what the game plan was. He never really tried to change it too much. And I spent a lot of time with him during those 2 years. And the one thing I'll say about him, Jack, is that he tried to win you know, I coached him when he was 39 and 40. And if you gave him enough rest in between games, he'd still play like the Michael Avot. He couldn't jump as high, but he could still get you 50 points if needed. Oh, yeah. And it was not as, it was more closer to the basket, 15 feet and in for the most part, but he could still make a 3 there, here and there. But the main thing is back-to-backs. He might get you 45 the first night and only 25 the next night. You know, of course. But the thing about Michael is he tried to win every sprint, he tried to win every drill, he tried to win every scrimmage, you know, that we divided up into 2 different teams, and he was going to make sure that other guys knew how hard he worked even at that age.
It's crazy to hear those stories, to learn actually about it. And I never grew up with Michael Jordan. I'm a little bit on the younger side, but it's cool to hear these stories, see now, and someone who's actually coached them. 49 years of coaching, you've done it at every single level. What's some of the challenges that has been, adapting to it? You look nowadays, NIL is very important with college basketball. How changing of, generations with basketball in the NBA and with college?
Yeah, it's really changed a lot. It's in my mind, it's really hurt the mid-major schools in college, because now if you go there as a mid-major player and you have a good year, that's your goal, to be great, obviously, at the school of your choice. And if you put up good numbers and your team is, you're a good teammate, you're going to get recruited by higher level schools. So that really hurts the mid-major coaches. But then now everybody, even though Northwestern is a great institution academically, top like 8 in the world. The one thing that we still get asked now in the last 2 years is, how much am I going to play and how much money am I going to earn? And, those questions never used to get asked, but they're usually within the first half hour of a recruiting visit. You got to handle those 2 issues. But it's been fun. The landscape has changed. A lot of the older coaches like myself are getting out of it now, so they could be just fans and sit back and watch. The NBA has changed. When I coached in the NBA, there were only 3 assistants, sometimes 4. One would sit behind the bench, and now you see 2 rows of assistant coaches. There could be as many as 12 coaches or to 15, and each player has his own individual workout coach. So, that's changed as well.
It's crazy the amount of change going on, and a lot of people see it when you're watching college basketball games now, NBA now. You've been coaching for 49 years. Have you ever thought of being a head coach, going for more, doing your own thing? You've been under the Collins. Talk about, saying, why did not become an NBA head coach or a college basketball head coach?
I interviewed for a couple of NBA jobs when I was an assistant with Washington, and I did not get them. And then I thought I went a different kind of route because I know a lot of my friends who became head coaches, they made a lot of money. I'm jealous of that.
Of course.
But I saw the heartache that some of them, the stress level was really up here. And I wanted to be around my kids a lot. I wanted to go to my kids' games. I wanted to go home in the summertime and get some downtime. And as a head coach, you never got that. So, it all depend on which head coach you work for. But you could have anywhere from 6-7 weeks off during the summertime if you were successful and you did things the right way and they trusted that you were going to get your work done. So, that's why would I have turned down a head coaching job? Probably not.
Yeah.
But it didn't work that way, and I have no regrets.
No, it's wonderful to have no regrets there, and you've worked your butt off for 49 years. So congratulations on that. Yeah. Last question I have for you today. We're all from Taylorville. What's some of your favorite places to be in Taylorville, to eat at, to go to? What's some of your favorite spots there in Taylorville?
Well, obviously, I grew up in Taylorville. I've been best friends with the Bill Berry and the Berry family. They've basically inherited me since I was 9 years old, so that's 60 years of friendship with that family. And we used to, when I go back now, I still go to the west side a lot. Of course. And some of the, I used to go to the 1 Mile Inn, Ray's Place. There were some great restaurants back in the day that I really frequented. My parents lived in just outside of Edinburgh, so we would go all over Christian County and go eat. But I don't want to pick one spot. Angelo's, we always went when I coached there. I would go with Bill Hopper and Terry Wright and Bob Frasina and supporters of our program. Don, our coaches would go. Lee Emery, who I coached with there for 5 years. So we would all go after the game, the radio staff and WTIM and our coaching staff would go to Angelo's after every game. So there's a lot of great spots.
Well, that's awesome. Well, thank you for joining me today. We're excited for you. Congrats on a wonderful career, and we're excited for the game night. We hope you guys have a good competition with a tough Illini team.
Yeah, well, Illinois is playing as good as they've ever played this year, for sure. I got about 20 people, most from Taylorville and Central Illinois, coming to support. I know they're Illinois fans, but they usually, hope that we do well as well. So maybe Illinois wins by 1 or something, but we're going to try to upset them tonight. We're getting them I feel, where they could overlook us because they just played Nebraska and they played Michigan State next in a real important game. So, we're gonna fight tonight, and we're gonna be there and tooth and nail, and hopefully get a win in the Assembly Hall or State Farm Center.
You guys always make sure it's a close game. If Northwestern Illinois rivalry, I swear there's never really a big blowout. So we're excited for the game tonight. Well, thank you for joining me today. It was wonderful to meet you, and we're excited for the rest of your career and what's next for you, and hopefully the retirement step here coming soon.
Well, I don't know. We're going to decide that, but it's been a great journey, and I've just been blessed for a guy who, a little small town kid. Dreams do come true, and that's what I told. A lot of the students at Taylorville High School that came up with Tommy Tornado's crew came up, and I met with them. Dream big and work hard, and meet a lot of people in the business that you want to be in, and you just never know how things may work out.
Well, you're the prime example of saying you're from a small town, you can do big things. Well, thank you for joining me today.
All right, thank you.
It was a pleasure.
Pleasure, all mine.